After Jack fights his way through Neptune's bounty and Smuggler's hideout, he finds himself in Arcadia. I had a lot of fun researching this part. Arcadia is actually a direct reference to more Greco-Roman mythology, of which we'll take a very close look at in a few minutes. Before we do that, I wanted to offer my own interpretation when it comes to the etchings on the gravestones that are found at the entrance of the Arcadia level. While the gravestones have been analyzed many times before, I don't know if anyone has attempted to uncover the hidden message that appears to be hiding in plain sight here. I think what has been completely missed is that there seems to be a certain statement being made about the economic theories of the men named here, both John Maynard Keynes and Adam Smith. One must ask, why would an epitaph in the first place ever be shared like this? Unless it weren't really an epitaph at all, but instead some sort of code. First of all, the epitaph on this headstone is just a cover story for a statement being made about economist John Maynard Keynes. The first word and the biggest word in all caps is faith at the top of the headstone here, followed by the word farthingworth, which is, of course, a reference to a now defunct unit of British currency known as the farthing. John Maynard Keynes, a British economist, has been heralded as the man who saved capitalism with his book, The General Theory of Employment, Interest, and Money. Keynesian economic theory involves a managed market economy, which means both private sector and government involvement working together to maintain a stable economy. Keynesian economic theory is popular in places like the United States Federal Reserve Bank, which is a group of private banks that print money out of thin air. Now, as an aside, history has never been kind to fiat currencies that are invented out of the ether, as every single one of these fiat currencies in history have always returned to zero. Adam Smith, on the other hand, who's also on this epitaph, was an American who published his economic manifesto entitled The Wealth of Nations in 1776, whom completely rejected the idea of government or monarchical intervention in the free markets, a sentiment that Andrew Ryan most certainly would have agreed with. What is really interesting about this gravestone is that it says John Maynard Keynes died at the age of 36. And it just so happens that Keynes' book about his popular economic ideas was published in 1936. And an even stranger coincidence, something I was rather shocked to discover, that in 1936 just happened to be the last year for this particular farthing design, a design which has Neptune's trident on it. Is this just a coincidence? Maybe so, but it's a really weird one, to say the least. One thing seems certain here. This gravestone inscription is no doubt a slam against Keynesian economics. It's showing us that the ideas of Adam Smith should outlive those of John Maynard Keynes. And I think this is very timely because we find ourselves in a very precarious economic situation with the dollar right now. So now let's dive into the lore associated with Arcadia. It turns out Arcadia has quite an interesting history in terms of Greek mythology and strange pagan cult rituals. This image depicts King Lycan, here on the right. King Lycan of Arcadia is being turned into a wolf by Zeus after trying to feed Zeus the remains of one of his 50 sons. The king wanted to test Zeus to see if he was really an omnipotent god, or at least that is the cover story for a much more detailed allegory. In the story, Zeus has caused the instant death of all of Lycan's sons, and the boy who was to be the main course was later resurrected and became a king in his own right. Even more interesting, however, and in keeping with the theme of Greek mythology, is this level's namesake, Arcadia. In Greek mythology, Arcadia was home to a primitive pagan religion which practiced ritual sacrifice and cannibalism. This religion or cult worshipped the chthonic or subterranean goddess known as Despoina, or Thespoina, daughter of Poseidon and Demeter. Demeter being the goddess of harvest and agriculture. Another clue to the paganism that's running through Arcadia. Thespoina in Greek means the mistress. And this mistress is the goddess of ancient agrarian cults of Arcadia and is a key figure in the Eleusinian mysteries, along with her mother Demeter and half-sister Persephone. However, the name Thespoina, while a fairly common name in Greek to this day, was also used as a title for several other Greek goddesses. So this isn't just a name, this is actually a title, two of which are associated with the underworld. One being Thespoina's half-sister Persephone, depicted in this image kneeling in front of Hecate. She's bearing two torches, and she has, of course, Hermes at her side, or Mercury. The goddesses sharing this title of Thespoina, or mistress, are none other than the two other females in this image, Hecate in the center and Demeter on the far right. This image is really quite revealing on many levels for those who have at least been initiated into the mysteries. I won't give away too much here so we can get back to Bioshock, but there is a ceremony happening in this scene. The Eleusinian mysteries harken back to a time of primitive, earth-dwelling, pagan religious rites. This is exactly what's going on in Arcadia with the Saturnine. I tend to think that all of these goddesses depicted here represent different aspects of the very same pre-Etruscan or even Druidic religious traditions. And also, I can't help but think, for some reason, this looks like a scene from, like, if you were to stage a Greek play and, a version of Star Wars, it makes me think of Star Wars for some reason. The namesake of Bioshock's cult of Arcadia, the Saturnine, are a mix of alchemical references associated with the base or animal nature of humanity, inspired by actual Greek and Roman deities. Deities which ultimately are of pagan origins, having to do with nature and primordial rituals. So this is like perfect for this level of Arcadia. Good job, guys. Good job. The name Saturnine seems a loosely based reference to the festival of Saturnalia, which was a week-long festival of debauchery leading up to December 25th in Rome, in ancient Rome. Saturnalia was a festival in honor of Saturn of Kronos and the deity Mithra from Persia, as well as other pagan deities, all of which were rolled into one big happy holiday by the Holy Roman Christian Church. Even the birthday of Christ was moved to December 25th to coincide with the biggest pagan festival of the year in an effort to bring as many people as possible under the same banner and influence under Christianity. The masks worn by the Saturnine cult members are reminiscent of the veneration of ancient Druidic and Celtic horned gods of nature, like the god Cernunnos depicted here. There's also a pagan wicker man sort of thing going on in Arcadia, with the presence of masks and burnt figures on stakes in those caves. It makes me think that the Greek god Pan was also inspired by the far older human hybrid pagan gods of nature. And wouldn't you know it, here in Arcadia at the farmer's market, I was not surprised, but I was also very happy that I actually found this. This is the only poster in the area I could find. But here we have a direct reference to Sylvanus, the Roman deity of the forest, shown in this image on the right. Sylvanus means of the woods in Latin. So again, another pagan reference. Sylvanus was often associated with music, specifically the pan flute. Later on, Sylvanus became likened with the deity Pan, another god associated with nature and pagan origins. In the Arcadia poster I found in the market, we can see that the upper body is indeed the god Sylvanus or Sylvanus, with the trademark wreath on his head, whereas his bottom half is clearly modeled after the deity Pan. This is yet another clue as to the cult of the Saturnine being modeled after the devotees of pagan-inspired gods of nature. And if you do a quick Google search for Sylvanus or Sylvanus, this brings up several different types of woodland figures that all appear to have taken inspiration from the Roman deity, including the cult of Saturnine from Bioshock's Arcadia. And of course, we can't dismiss the rather gratuitous use of astrological and alchemical symbols that have been thrown around on the walls, including another reference to Neptune, of course. I would say this was placed here to drive home the point that there is something occult or mysterious and esoteric going on with the cult of Saturnine. This adds to the mystery, of course, and the lure of this cult in Arcadia, and it lends more credence to the idea that there is some powerful secret knowledge at work here which is beyond normal human comprehension. However, the developers of Bioshock managed to include, or how they managed to include a reference to the pagan gods and Eleusinian mysteries really does honor the lore of the original Arcadia. So I think they did a pretty good job there. Here's a quick reference for what these symbols represent in case you want to research that on your own. They don't really appear to be in any particular order or placement that I can decipher. I think they're just kind of, thrown up there. Maybe there's some hidden message waiting for someone with a high level of understanding of astrology to explain. You never know, but I tend to think not. Also in Arcadia, I couldn't help but notice the Alice in Wonderland reference with the little sister that appears near the Gatherer's Garden, along with the Amanita muscaria mushrooms placed near the Gatherer's Garden machine, as well as the brown mushrooms of rolling hills, which closely resemble the Psilocybe cubensis, otherwise known as the Golden Teacher. Both the Amanita, or fly agaric as it's known, and the Golden Teacher, or the fly agaric, and this Golden Teacher mushroom are among two species that I've commonly encountered in the forest during the fall months. And while they are quite different from each other, both these mushrooms, they both have traditionally been used by ancient mystic cults for thousands of years. One of them, of course, is associated with Santa Claus. Also, the Alice in Wonderland reference wasn't lost on me at this point in the game either, so that was nice to see. And finally, in Arcadia, everyone already knows about the whale boss battle. I just figured I would mention this since this is my favorite Easter egg in the entire game.